I am going to go ahead and we're going to get this webinar started. This is a huge, huge, huge blessing for me. My team knows why this is a blessing for me, because I only own about 25% of this meeting. And I love that kind of stuff. So what we are going to do is we're going to do a round robin today. And we very specifically are going to talk about leadership. We're each going to give 3 points around leadership. But this was a key thing, just so you know in the background, what we did as a team. We all agreed that we would bring 3 points, 3 of our favorite points or 3 points of leadership that we thought might bring value, with one rule: we don't tell each other what the other is bringing to the table. So I'm just as much here as everybody else to find out. Basically, there are 9 points that I have no idea that's going to come up. So I'm really excited about that. And the last thing I'm going to share, and then I'm out, is that I loved that the 4 of us were each bringing something, because we all come from a little different perspective. I think Karen lives in a really cool world where I consider Karen very much a leader, and she's been in this industry for over 30 years, and I do consider her a leader in this industry, but she also is someone that is the right hand of leaders. Brokers, team owners, everything else like that. She is 100% a leader in this industry, but she's also someone that has to cater to people that are high level leaders. I have zero clue what direction she's going with this. So I love that perspectives, and she knows I'm a big fan of her, but I literally don't know what side she's talking about, or if she's going to bring a little bit of both. Nicole owns an independent transaction company that closed about 2,200 transactions last year, which is ridiculous. That's awesome. She also leads a team to do that. That is, if anybody has a transaction company and they've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on their team, 6 people on a independent transaction coordinator team is considered a pretty reasonable size team. Hers is at least twice that size. Okay. So she's kind of beyond that reasonable size. I mean, she's got a large business. And so she is the leader of that organization, but she's also, what I'm finding interesting, I'm just bringing up because I don't know if she'll do anything with this, but what also interests me is she is a leader of a very large organization, but she's in a phase right now where she is also, from my perspective, looking for leaders within her organization. So I find that an interesting thing right now too. Then Chrixy. I have no idea what direction Chrixy's going, okay? Because Chrixy works with me directly. I see Chrixy as a leader, but at the same time, she could literally do 3 points on what is it like working with someone who thinks he's a leader of the organization, and what are the pluses, what are the minuses, what suggestions would she give to that dude, those types of things. She also could talk about the fact that there are a lot of things that Chrixy leads as well, and I'm going to only mention one of them, but there are quite a few of them that I could mention, at least 3 off the top of my head. But one of them, she was also a college instructor for marketing. Okay. Okay. How do you lead a group of students? How do you lead within a university organization? I think there's some real value there, but she may talk nothing about that. And that might be all of her points. I don't know what direction she's going. So I did ask Karen to start. Karen, are you ready?
I sure am.
All right. I'm muting myself.
Your introduction was a perfect segue into my number 1 item on my list. Leadership is not hierarchical. We may work in an environment where management is hierarchical, but everyone in every role can grow in their leadership skills. It's not limited to just people in certain roles. We all have leadership opportunities in our lives, whether it's in our role, our household, our lives with our friends. We all can grow and strengthen our leadership muscle. And it is not based on where you stand with your role. I think every single role, every single job has leadership potential. And I think every person has leadership potential in them also. So that is my number 1 nugget.
Okay, well, that doesn't suck for a place to start. I love that.
That's like setting a high standard already.
Absolutely. And Karen, I want to say what I just got out of that is that perspective, having that perspective. I think a lot of times we think of leadership from our perspective. How does leadership affect us? How do we think about it? But it gives us a perspective on how to look at the people that we're working with. Mm-hmm. Are there opportunities for leaders to see their people as leaders rather than seeing themselves as leaders, and that they have that opportunity? And how do we invest in them to help that grow? So I love that perspective a lot. Love it. Nicole, what you got for us, my friend?
So my first point is actually about leading by example. And this is how I've kind of run my business all these years. But I think as leaders within an organization, I think we're leading by example, whether we intend to be or not. The reality is whether or not we're aware that, the people we are leading are looking up to us. They are seeing what we're doing, how we're reacting, how we're responding in given situations. And what we are presenting to them is important, like whether it's in front of your entire team or in a one-on-one or in just a chat, like the way you are presenting yourself is really important because they are seeing that. I am not a parent, but I imagine it is much like being a parent where your kids are always watching and learning and listening to what you're doing. Like it's similar with your team. So I think it's really important that we have that level of self-awareness around what kind of attitude, what kind of mindset we are presenting to our team. Like, are we, as the market is starting to change, like, are we panicking? Are we, communicating better to our team that we're worried about the business? Or are we communicating that, hey, regardless of what happens, we provide a really great service and we're going to figure out how to pivot and how to, continue, keep the ball rolling and continue working toward our goals. We will figure out how to get there. So I think my big thing is, whether you're aware of it or not, you are always leading by example, and we all need to have that level of self-awareness and know what kind of attitude and mindset we are presenting to our team.
Okay. My favorite thing is not that we're leading by example, but we're leading whether we intend to, or we're providing example whether we intend to or not. So I'm thinking of, I can't help it, my head automatically goes to all the times that we might not even think. So what's the tone of your email?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What's the tone? I mean, I can go on and on and on and on, but I wasn't quite thinking that when you started that sentence, but as you increased on that, I started thinking about, wow, how many examples are there that we just are going through the motions, and even those are providing examples. Love that. Chrixy, as you give yours, I want to point out to everybody that I'm actually seeing leadership on this call through Chrixy already. Okay. I do not ask Chrixy to take a look at what's going on and make sure that she monitors things and make sure that she is, being respectful to everybody's time and the notes and everything. Have you noticed that she's putting everything that we say, basically the points, in the comments? She owned that without being asked. Okay. She's helping to lead this call without being asked. You might think that we organize that before the call. That's not organized. That's something that she has just chosen that she's going to own, and she is helping lead this call without being asked. Chrixy, you rock. All right. So Chrixy, what you got?
Thank you. Well, just a disclaimer, I didn't intentionally form an acronym when I was picking my 3 points, but halfway through I noticed that I could form an acronym. So it's actually LEA, and I am breaking the rule if I'm giving 4. There's going to be a bonus one, which is D. So I'm going to start chronologically here. Letter L, and I swear I didn't know Karen's and Nicole's, but it's actually connected with that. My first nugget would be there's a big leadership is also about listening and listening. So this is highly influenced by our coaching with the coaches session and the power of active listening. And it actually started, my first nugget started with have the same language and establish a culture within the team. But then I realized before you have the same language, you have to understand that everybody has their own context and everybody can be a leader themselves. So that's what Karen was talking about, saying that it's not hierarchical. And then also about attitude and mindset, I realized that for us to have a language, to form a single language, we have to understand that attitude and mindset needs to be balanced and leveled off. And there's only one way for everybody to come at a point where everybody's understood. It's when we do active listening. Especially everybody, I know everyone in here has their own teammates, and David and I are coming from very far places and locations, and we all have cultures and contexts that we need to consider. And before we establish a certain language, a culture, a mindset, and attitude, it's very important to form a genuine relationship with the team. And you can only do that when you actively listen to who they are, who their families are, what their goals are, what their skill set are. So leadership is about listening. That's my first nugget.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I don't know if this happened for everybody else, but when you started, you completely broke up for me. So I didn't even hear what your actual L was.
I heard everything.
But here's what I loved about it for me is I got to listen to everything that you're saying. Okay, and I'm trying to come up with, okay, so was it language? Was it listening? What was it? And so when you talked about active listening, the level of active listening I was just doing to you, because I needed to hear every aspect of what you were saying, because I wanted to put it in context. So that absolutely beautiful share. And I also love, I'm going to just share with everybody that my wife's favorite part of Chrixy is this, because my wife gets to hear our calls a lot of times. She's walking around. We'll get off the call and she'll be like, gosh, I just love that she bosses you around. And she's not afraid to do that. Now that's an earned thing and a grown thing, but I will say this. Notice what she said. Didn't she start the whole thing? She goes, I know he told to give 3, but I'm giving 4. She's going to do whatever she wants anyways. So I kind of loved you.
So it's going to be worth it.
Oh man. Okay, so here is mine. And I don't know that this will become as a surprise to anybody, because if you listen to the last roundtable that we did, it may be either the same way I started the last roundtable or the way I ended it. And that is I'm going to recommend that you become a student, that you focus on becoming a student of leadership. Okay, so our last roundtable webinar was about it was about goal setting and business planning. And I said the same thing in that. That's not a natural thing that you just kind of grow up, and that's a natural skill set that someone's got. That's a learned skill set. And even if you naturally are decent with some of that stuff, you can always get better. And here's what I'm going to do. And Chrixy is going to do a beautiful thing after this, is all 4 of us are going to give our notes. And then she's going to put together a PDF with all of our notes and any links that we want to share. And I am going to share a link, and I'm actually going to play it right now. Okay, it's 55 seconds. This one says 8 minutes. You don't want to hear that. Okay, let's do 55 seconds. And then I'm going to just put what I'm going to say in context, and I will pass it back to Karen.
If you decide in any particular area that you're concerned about to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to read one book a month in that area, in 5 years, you'll be among the top 5% experts in the world. I read a minimum of 2 books a week. The average American reads only 1 book a year. If you decide that area that you love, that you are going to master that particular area, in this era of accelerated change, overwhelming complexity, and tremendous competition, as you begin to develop and expand your skills and your talents and your vision of yourself, you will always be in control of your destiny.
How silly is that? That I have, and I'm not being figurative here, I'm being literal, that I have heard that hundreds and hundreds of thousands, hundreds and hundreds of times, possibly over 1,000 times, those 55 seconds. And just now when I heard it, I got goosebumps again. How is that possible? The reason why is because of this. I was introduced to Les Brown when I was 19 years old, and I'm 51 years old this year. And when I heard him say that at 19, it literally changed my life. He told me if anything means enough to me, as long as I'm willing to commit to it and read one book, a new book on that topic every single month for the next 5 years, that I could become part of the top 5% experts in the world on that topic. And then he asked, what means enough to you that you'd be willing to do that? I'm just saying with all of my heart, my first point is this: figure out what means enough to you that you're willing to become truly a student of it. And so that's my first point. Become a student of it and determine what level of student of it that you want to become. But becoming a student of it, don't worry about whether you are naturally a leader or not. It's a learned skill. Don't worry about where you're at. Become a student of it. Okay, Karen.
I love that. And we'll have some overlap in my third topic. I sat here and I thought, oh, should I switch mine around? Because it kind of goes into what Chrixy said. It kind of goes into what David said. I'm going to stick to my, how I have it written, because I'm a system follower. So I'm going down my list. My number 2 is you can't pour from an empty bucket. Be purposeful to keep your mind, body, and spirit healthy. Exercise, meditate, eat well, and get good sleep. And whatever we can do to control factors of those, I encourage you to do. So I learned a while ago to try to control my sleep. I was doing a bit of traveling, and it was hard to control that sleep in hotels and different time zones. And so the group that I was traveling with said, oh, I always travel with earplugs and an eye mask and a white noise machine. So she totally controlled her sleeping environment, no matter where she was. And I thought, gosh, that's really empowering. And I adopted pieces of that, and I sleep much better than I did. So that's really, really important. I think that's maybe something we don't give enough lip service to, is the importance of resting and sleeping and taking care of us. Another piece that I've recently adopted, kind of with that same mindset of wanting to be really purposeful about it, I want to control as many outside factors as I can, is my exercise and fitness. So I bought a Oculus headset, and that's where I exercise in there. I take it with me when I travel. It's compact. The app that I do in there is, I can do it anywhere. And so I'm trying to remove any external factors, like it's raining, it's too hot, there's snow, whatever. If I'm doing things outside, or I don't have time to get to the gym, like I'm trying to remove any obstacles in my path of that, because exercise for me is as much physical. Actually, it's more mental for me than it is physical. So I think really being purposeful to take care of ourselves as leaders in whatever aspect it is, whether it's a leader in your organization or a leader in your home or your community, you need to take care of yourself.
Oh my gosh, you couldn't have ended that better. When you transferred this, everything you just said, to remind us that this also applies to our personal life. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty bucket. That's number 2. Frickin' brilliant. Nicole.
I think it's kind of interesting that my second and third points are kind of going to tie into everything that we've talked about already, into both Karen and Chrixy and David, but I'm going to give it from my perspective. But My second point is you really can't be an effective leader if you are not communicating effectively with your team. And I think there's several points that I want to touch on about what does effective communication look like. I think the first part of communicating effectively with your team is about transparency, and actually being open and transparent with them on what is happening in the business. My whole team knows that I am an open book. I'm very transparent with them about where we are at, where we're headed, what we're doing. They know whether or not we have the money in the budget to give them a raise. Like they know exactly where the business is at. Like they can actually see what our revenue numbers are and everything. Like I'm very transparent with them. When COVID hit in March of 2020, and we started kind of going into quarantine, like we had a team meeting about it, and I was like, look, like we don't know what's going to happen. We have business reserves. We're going to make sure that everybody is nobody's going to be destitute. We're going to make sure we're going to figure out a way for everybody to continue paying their bills. We don't know what's going to happen with the market, but we had a very open, transparent conversation about what was happening. We did not sugarcoat anything. We did not bury our heads in the sand and pretend everything was fine. I wanted everybody to know this is where my head's at. This is where we're heading. This is how I think we're going to get there. Here's what you can do to help. The next part of that, besides being transparent, is also being clear, having clarity, being very specific in what you are telling them, being very specific about your goals, what it's going to take to get to those goals. Being clear, not just in what the business is doing, but also in your feedback to your team. Be really super clear on what are they doing amazingly, what are they knocking out of the park, but also being really clear on where is there room for improvement. If you get bad feedback from an agent, what exactly is it that was the sticking point? Being super clear about that. And then my last point on effective communication ties in with Chrixy, which is active listening. It's actually my third point. And you cannot be an effective leader if you are not actively listening. And that means listening to understand, not listening to respond. So when you're having these one-on-one and these really important conversations with your team, you're actually listening, getting all of their feedback, listening to all of their fears, all of their struggles, everything, and actually seeking to understand that before you seek to respond. And I think that skill applies not just in our business, but also in our marriages and our relationships and our friendships with our family, everything. Like that's something that we should all be working on at all times anyway. But yes, so that is my second point, is communicate effectively.
I kind of think the three of you powwowed a little bit together without me on some kind of meeting or something. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Chrixy, what's up, my friend?
I actually can directly build on from what Nicole said, and we didn't talk before this. Anyway, my second nugget, my second point is empowerment. So LE is for empowerment. For Cultivate Wins, we have been saying over and over again that we should promote pride in ownership. And it's a very, very big principle in Cultivate Wins. But before we have that pride in ownership, we have to understand what hats, roles, and responsibilities each and every one in the team is wearing and owning. And what Nicole said about communicating clearly, it builds on with my point saying, how are we gonna own a specific role, responsibility if we weren't told about it, if the team leader wasn't clear about it? How are we going to yearn for growth and learn to be a leader if the team or organization or the structure and the goals are not clear with us? So communication is very, very essential in this empowerment version. And it starts with hiring purposefully. So you have to understand that when you hire a person, you should hire them for a role, not the other way around. You hire a person and then you find what they can do. That's going to be a very hard way for them to grow and to yearn for growth. And on the other side of it, you also have to prepare a roadmap for yourself, for the members, and for the team. And David is going to be mad at me if I don't add this bit, because you have to audit them regularly. So hire with a purpose, you have to prepare a roadmap and of course audit them regularly. And on the other side of the table, there's that person you hired or the team member. So directly speaking, as a remote partner of David for some months now, he's a very, very empowering person. Like whenever I talk with him, whenever I have a meeting with him, we end the call and I'm like full of energy and okay, let's do this. I'm so ready to work on the task and the role. But that also made me realize that empowerment is a two-way street. Even though you as a leader can be a very empowering person, if the other person who should be receiving the empowerment isn't ready yet, there's not going to be an empowerment. There's not going to be pride and ownership. So it's always a two-way street, and it's very important to have that communication and balance and level if the team leader and the members are on the same page. That's my second point.
Well, I'm glad you leave the call energized. Usually I leave our call going, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. Chrixy told me to get this done, no, just kidding. I will say this about Chrixy. I want to echo something that you said so that they know that I'm hearing this from you, and it's not just the first time on this call. The fact is I believe in leading through empowerment. That's a very big deal to me. So I lead through empowerment. And Chrixy and I discussed that on another video, I don't know, maybe about a year ago. And her disappointment when we finished that video, she goes, I forgot to mention one thing. You could be the greatest leader in the world and be willing to empower someone, but someone has to be willing to accept being empowered. And you just kind of mentioned that again, and I do think that's important. And as a leader, I'm going to go back to Karen and I'm going to go back to Nicole, which is, that active listening, okay, and being really aware of the person that you are trying to lead. Are they ready to be empowered?
Yeah.
Offer the empowerment, but be aware. Okay. Yeah. And Chrixy has been wonderful. She knows I'm willing to empower her, but she also has learned that I'm open to hearing is, you know what, David, I love that you're willing to empower me. Can we work on these things for the next month or two? And maybe I'm ready for that third quarter or fourth quarter. So I do want to say those that are listening to this that are being led by others is don't be afraid to talk to your leader that way. Okay. Chrixy's amazing at that. So again, more Chrixy praise here, but that's what I got. Okay, so the next thing is, and thank you, Chrixy, that was fantastic. Okay, so Chrixy, I may pull you in on this one. I hope you're okay with that. I know it's my point, but I may ask you to share your perspective on this. And that is as a leader, stop being the only one who's leading. Stop being the one who owns every single freaking meeting. Stop it. Okay. Is Chrixy, when we do our one-on-ones, who owns the meeting?
Monday's your meeting and Thursday's mine.
Yeah. So not everybody meets twice a week. Now we have to, based on what we're trying to accomplish and what our roles is and stuff like that. So this wouldn't matter if we were meeting twice a month. What we do is I own one meeting, she owns the next, and we just keep rotating that. And we just keep rotating that, and we just keep rotating that, okay? I do have a leader that I'm coaching that is so frustrated right now, okay? She's so frustrated, and she says, I just wish my team would I could hear from them. I never get to hear from them. What do they want? What are their ideas? What are this? What are that? And it's like, when's the last time you just shut up? I mean, when's the last time you actually allowed them to lead? I said, I love you. I really do. I really do. You're intimidating. You're an intimidating human being. I'd be afraid to bring anything up in your meeting. I'd be afraid. You ask people, is there anything that we should be bringing to our agenda? Just the way you ask it, I would be afraid to add something to the agenda. You scare the crap out of me and I coach you. Okay. Here's the thing is what we're working on is how does she empower their people to own their own one-on-one? And how do we move that back and forth where I own one meeting and then they own one meeting? Now I'm going to, this might be a little bit too much sharing and disclosure, but I'm going to right now just show you our Slack, none of our conversations with the team, just the Slack between Chrixy and I, because I want you to see in real time what this looks like in real time. So when we do a one-on-one, we rotate it. I own one, she owns one. Here's the requirement. Whoever owns it has to send the agenda prior to the meeting, usually one business day prior to the meeting. So we send each other agendas. And I'm going to show you what Chrixy and I send back and forth to each other. Okay. This is more embarrassing for me than it is for Chrixy, due to the fact that I want to show you something very specific. Do you guys see the length of this agenda right here? These 3 points, these 3 huge points that are just massive. Let's go back to the meeting right before that. Oh, there's Chrixy's agenda. She makes me look like a joke. And half the time that I do this little agenda, then she has 5 replies to it after the meeting because she took notes telling me basically what my agenda should have looked like, because here's all the things that we covered. Okay. Here's the thing is this what it looked like when Chrixy started to own the meeting? Not a chance under God's green earth. Okay. When I told her that I wanted to empower her to own her own one-on-one, she didn't even know what that meant. She didn't know what it looked like. It is my job as a leader to help give her confidence to lead her own meeting. She doesn't even know what that agenda should look like. So then a couple days prior to the meeting, if I don't see her agenda, I can say, hey, by the way, what did you want to cover in your meeting? She's scared out of her mind. Simplify it and go, if there are only 2 things that you were allowed to talk about, what would be the top 2 things? You know what? Why don't you think about those? Just send me 2 things by the end of business today that you want to make sure is on that agenda. Help them with baby steps. Now you look at Chrixy, and I'm afraid of her agendas. I'm afraid of the length of her agendas and the time that we say that we're going to be able to get through that. Okay. That's not where it started. Take baby steps, but I'm telling you, if you allow your people to own every one of their own one-on-one meetings, here's what's going to happen. I want to help Chrixy have pride in ownership of her own meeting. When Chrixy truly has pride and ownership in her role, and she has pride and ownership of her own meeting, I get a better version of Chrixy all the time. And Chrixy learns that she actually means something to me, that her opinion matters to me, and that she is fully respected. So that's my point, is give up the meeting, rotate your meetings with who's going to own it, in particular on the one-on-ones, okay? So I hope that helps. Karen.
Yes. So I'm going to pull from several of the previous tips. Leadership isn't about being the best. It's about helping everyone around you be better. And so I'm going to also bring up a point that I made in one of our meetings. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This applies to all parts of your life: business, family, social, philanthropic, like anything. I think you can apply this to. And I believe it starts with listening and learning. So listen to hear, don't listen to respond, and listen to learn from those around you also. Learn their needs, their challenges, learn what they know, gain from their wisdom and their experiences in life. Have a growth mindset, especially as it relates to growing your leadership skills. So to David's point, become a student of leadership. And you can also learn from those around you. I don't think it's always books, but you probably have some really great examples of people who lead in different lanes and with different styles that are already in your world. Learn from them. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with. This is something I've preached to my kids since they were little, but you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it doesn't have to be who are you spending physical time with, but who are you listening to, what podcasts, what books, because those can also be people that you're surrounding yourself with. So there is number 3.
Gosh dang, I love this call. All right, Nicole. And by the way, I love when you said the 5 people you surround yourself with, and it's not always just the physical side of that.
Yeah.
The 5 people you're surrounding your mental space with. Oh, I love that. I love that you said that.
Yeah,
Nicole.
because we don't all have like financial people. You know, if you want to focus on getting better at your finances, we don't all have a friend who's in finance. So read. Who are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to pull someone into that space with you?
Gary V, some people love him, some people can't stand him. He's a bit much for some people. I think he did say that, I think it was him, he said, sometimes I think coaching is overrated. And the person that he was talking to in that interview, like, was kind of shocked the way that he was saying that. And he said, I'm more into idols and mentorship. And they're like, what do you mean by that? And he says, here's the thing is, the person I really want to learn from at my level, and this is all relative, they may not even be available to me, but their knowledge is. I want to hear the way they talk all the time. I want to hear the way that they do business all the time. He says, so I'm looking for people who are where I want to be, not just financially, but in their mindset and in their spirit, in their attitude and how they treat people. And if that means that I'm not at a place that that person is accessible to me, I am going to seek everything that I can find out with that person. So it might be in your sphere. There may be people, maybe you don't have direct contact and you're not going to go out to lunch with them and everything else like that. Admire them and start writing down, what was it that you saw about them in this last thing that you really admired? What would it take to achieve that and adopt that into your own life? So I just love that you brought that up. So Nicole,
I love Ashley's comment too about social media, because I think so much of it can become negative. So really becoming aware of that too. I mean, that's something that I've been really purposeful about over the last 2 years, is cleaning up what I'm seeing as I scroll. Is it contributing to me, or is it taking things away? Is it taking joy away? I just get rid of it and I block it and block it. So now I go on and it's just lovely. It's rainbows and unicorns.
When people say, don't look at your Facebook first thing in the morning. No, it is the thing that I look at, because I've already basically unfollowed. Doesn't mean I unfriended, but I unfollow anyone that traditionally is negative. The only thing that my Facebook has is rainbows and freaking unicorns.
Yeah, same.
I love it. It's a great
because it matters. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Nicole, what you got?
Well, I just want to add on to Karen's point. I love that you mentioned learning from the people you're leading, because I think sometimes it's important that we set our ego aside and that because we absolutely can learn from each other. Like, I learn from my team on a freaking daily basis. Like, they have so much to teach me. They're frankly way better TCs than I am. And I love that you mentioned that. That was one thing that really stuck out to me. But my last point really ties in with what Karen and what David, with everything we've already talked on about. But that is, if you're not growing, you're dying. And that applies in business and in personal. This comes back to, being a student of leadership, being a student of whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish in your life. But what are you doing on the personal development side, even outside of business? I am a big believer in therapy. If it's accessible and affordable for you, I think literally every human being would benefit from seeing a therapist at some point in their lives. I think that's a huge part of that personal development and learning to let go of the things that happen to us in our lives that do not serve us. I think that physical exercise, eating healthy, all of that ties into that personal growth and that personal development. Because if we are not actively working towards being the best version of ourselves, then we are not going to effectively help our team do the same thing and then be the best version of themselves and help the business get to where you want it to go. So that's really kind of what my biggest thing is actually asking yourself, like, what am I doing to improve myself? Whether it's reading books, exercise, eating healthy, not drinking so much alcohol, whatever that looks like for you. I think it's something that we need to be inspecting on a regular basis and being truly honest with ourselves of like, am I actually trying to grow? What am I doing to be a better human? And that is going to translate massively when it comes to leading our team and reaching our goals.
Favorite statement you just said, what am I doing to be a better human? This is a very human conversation to me. This is not a business conversation, a business webinar. This is a very human topic to me. Chrixy.
My last point is about accountability. And I'm actually going to share this from experience. David and I do quarterly reviews, and it's been very helpful. So in our quarterly reviews, he asks me to own 4 things. So 2 things I am proud of so far that I've accomplished, and 2 things that I can improve on. So that's the shorter version of it. He has like a longer one for that. And I think there's so much value in those 4 things because number 1, the first 2, I can celebrate my wins. And many wins are very huge and Cultivate Wins and technically in life. And he doesn't limit that in just business side of things. He also wants to celebrate personal things. So he personally knows my husband, and we've even had date nights. So there was a time before my husband and I got married, David, Dina, me, and Paolo, my husband, had like a mini double date. It was virtual, but it was very, very sweet, and it was very helpful for both of us because we were still young, and there were so many nuggets of wisdom that they shared. So having accountability not just in business but also in personal things is a very huge thing in building a team and being a leader. So that's the first thing. You can celebrate mini wins and huge wins when you check the things that you are proud of. And then the second set of it would be 2 things I can improve on. And David is a very, very gracious person, and he's very, very generous because he always invests in me. So you ask the person, okay, so what are 2 things you can improve on, and you can't just leave them hanging. You have to invest in those team members for them to actually improve on the things that they picked that they wanted to improve on. Because the first step would be, okay, I'm acknowledging that these are the things I lack, these are the things I have some lapses on, and I'm willing to go further and improve on those things. But I can't do it alone, so you have to help me in terms of investing. So I think that's a very good part of leading, and you have to be open to feedback at the same time. Be very much, the active listening always comes back to that part. So I also want to share my last bonus part. It's very, very short, and it's actually already something that Karen mentioned, but on my side, it's deep breaths. Remember to take breaks as an individual and as a team. Acknowledging the power of breath is a very, very empowering thing already. So taking breaths, taking breaks is essential to having a strong and successful team. And for you to be able to lead, you also have to be able to recharge yourself. And I think it's effective and imperative for not just the leader, but also the members. So just to summarize, it's listening, empowerment, and accountability, and deep breaths. That's my nuggets for the leadership thing.
So we should have had 3. She gets 4.
Sorry. I just want
Unbelievable.
I just
Unbelievable.
needed it to be lead and not just lead.
All right. So Chrixy, I am going to take what you just said, because it is kind of my number 4 to a certain extent. Okay. And I'm gonna elaborate on one point that you made. Okay. So my number 4 is this, and the most important part of this sentence is the first 3 words: be okay with. Okay. And then the next word is all capitals, not. Okay. Be okay with not being. Next word, all capitals, the. Be okay with not being the answer. As a leader, be okay with not being the answer. Be okay with that. Okay. Now, what I put in parentheses to that is, don't be or become the advice monster. You don't have to be the one that gives the answer all the time. Okay. Be okay that you know that. Be okay not being the one to give the answer. Sometimes just listening. But here's the other thing. I put in here, and this is where I'm going to tie in with you, Chrixy. If you're not going to be the answer, we have to also be okay with the fact that, well, there has to be an answer sometimes. And if it's not you, it very possibly could and should be your team. And because of that, that brings up this next point, which is this: invest in your team. Parentheses. This part's important. And I think as a business owner, we forget about this. We think this concept, yes, we should invest in our team. I'm going to ask you this simple question, and that's in parentheses. Let's not forget to include it in the budget. Don't just give a polite, yes, I really want to invest in my team. Is it in your actual budget to even do so? Because if you're not the answer, if you're okay not being the answer, a lot of the leaders that I coach, I'm investing in my team. How? I'm coaching them. Why do you have to be the answer for everything? Why? So, Chrixy, let's go with what you just said, because this is our real life together, and we happen to be on this call together, and you just brought it up, is when I say, and what it's called is a 2x2 for us. Okay, the 2x2 is bring two things. The actual phrase is bring two things that you're crazy proud of. Now, what we mean by that is crazy proud of when filtered against the 5x5. Now, that can be personal, and that can be in our business, that can be in our systems. There's a lot of things. Okay, but the second one is give me two things, and here are the three phrases. Give me two things that you are either you are frustrated about, confused, or you think that we or you could take to another level or do better. That's what it is. Okay. Now, when I say be okay with not being the answer, and I say that part of what that means to me is that I have to be okay with them having some of the answers. And I believe for them to be able to give better answers and better be a resource for all of us, that I should be willing to invest in them and have that in the budget. So this is kind of a big topic for me, but here is part of what Chrixy's quarterly review is. Chrixy, based on the things that you're frustrated, confused about, or you think that there is something that we could do at another level, Chrixy, do your homework before you come to review and figure out, is there some outside source outside of Breckheimer that you would like to get some help? Do your research. Did you see a course that you're interested in? Did you see a book? Did you see a coach that you just dream of coaching with? Did you see a group program? And what I want you to do at that quarterly review is tell me how I could invest in you. I don't want to just suggest a course to you. If you can't find one, I will work with you and help you find something. But I believe in you and I empower you to do your own research and tell me, who have you been watching from a distance and go, I would give anything to spend some time with that coach. I would do anything to be a part of that program. I would do anything. I don't have to tell her who she should coach with. I want her to tell me, who do you want to learn from? And then she comes to me and she tells me what that is, who that is, what it would cost us, how that would be a good return on our money, all that type of stuff. Now, does she take me up on it every single quarter and I'm dropping tons of money every single quarter on coaching and classes and everything? No. But does she know that I'm pretty authentically ready to write that check? Yeah, like nobody's business. Okay, so notice that this is, I'm not doing a Chrixy where I added a fourth point, but this is kind of a two-parter, okay? Where be okay not being the answer, but if you're not going to be the answer and you still need an answer, who is the answer? Did you hire great people? Did you hire great people, and are you investing in them to help them so that you don't have to be the only answer in the organization. And so, Chrixy, your point is, I mean, it totally led me right into this one. But we're hardcore about that. And she knows that, next, give me a break, a couple more weeks, we're going to have another quarterly review. And she knows, by the way, if she doesn't bring me something new that she would like to be a part of or whatever, I already have saved on the side the couple other things that she's shown me that she really likes and stuff. I'm going to say, do you want me to pull the trigger on this one right now? Do you want me to spend the money right now? Is this appropriate right now based on what you're trying to accomplish? Do you want to do coaching with that? Do you want to do this? Do you not? Okay. It's going to be your call. But I'm not letting her off the hook on it. She knows I'm serious about it and I'm willing to invest. So you have to ask yourself, is it in the budget? Make it part of your budget, or don't tell me that I really like to invest in my people. What, you're their coach? Come on. Okay. They get enough of you already. Okay. That's my opinion. And I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea and I can be a lot. Give me a break. She needs a break from me anyways. She needs to probably go talk to somebody else anyways. So, all right, that's my fourth one. I am going to ask openly now. I don't care, Teresa, Ashley, Brandy, Jill, Lawrence, Tony. Has anybody got one that's still, you're like, I thought this would have come up, or I like this, or whatever? Has anybody got at least one that they could share with me? Some type of leadership point that has really meant a lot to you, that means a lot to you as a leader, or it means a lot to you, the leadership you've received? Give me anything. Anything.
When I joined in a little bit late. So I was like panicked going, oh my gosh, do I have to come up with a statement? So my brain started racking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been put on the spot. But I had a couple things. I put my statement together. I don't know if I'm way off or what.
I love it. I
was going, knowing the qualities or your gifts that the people in your organization have, and know how to harness those qualities to help move towards the goal, or knowing when to separate.
Okay.
Is sort of what I was thinking. And then I had the blessing of I'm coming out of education, and we ran a leadership school. So we ran it through Stephen Covey with amazing effective, highly leadership people. So I've got to do all that with my kiddos. And then there's one I got for my teens, and there's one for adults. So it's just amazing wiring and that flipping. It's the outlook. Yep. Are you empty or are you full?
Yeah.
Type of thing.
And what I can say is that you just telling me what you've been involved in with that, I'm just a little jealous.
I'm like, Christy, I'm ready to go conquer the world. Like, what can I do?
I love it. Anything else from anybody else? And it's okay if you don't, but go for it.
So
go for it.
I'm newer to this group and this, but I don't know if everyone's Keller Williams, but I did come from a Keller Williams Market Center staff before joining this. And before I left, we read Leader Shift by John Maxwell. So if you guys haven't read this, definitely highly recommend. And so as we were talking about this, I had this in my desk. I pulled it back out, and I was just refreshing my mind on my notes. And one of the things that jumped out to me was, oh gosh, where did it go? I'm so sorry. Pleasing people to challenging people. So coming from a serial people pleaser here, that was definitely something I felt was a good mindset shift. Was that, like, how are you coming from contribution? Then they talked about caring, candor, and how you can't have one without the other, otherwise it causes dysfunction. So
yep. Yeah, and I have some of his books back on my shelf as well. Anybody looking for a book recommendation and you don't love to read, the Maxwell Daily Reader is an easy one because it's about a 3-minute read per day, and you don't even have to read it every day. They give you a calendar throughout the entire year, and any day you're just like, I need just a good kick in the pants, or at least a good idea. On leadership is you can just open it up to whatever day it is, even if you haven't looked at it for a month, and do 3 minutes of reading, and it's just a good inspiration for the day. That's a good, simple book, where some of his books, there's so much to glean from that book, but it's a full book and it's like going to a little university class. It's fantastic. The Maxwell Daily Reader is a fun little 3 to 4 minute read on any day that you just need some support or some help. Anybody else? Okay, we'll end it there. I will say from time to time, the person who's probably the best on this call at this is Chrixy, is when someone says something nice, she throws that little emoji heart up on the screen. She's good at that. I don't know how to run all these little features in Zoom, but I'm not kidding. I kept thinking that you had your little emoji heart on almost the entire time because of what's on your shirt here. So anyways, that was cracking me up a number of times. So anyways, thank you, everybody. We are going to post this one on YouTube. Chrixy will do all the editing for it. We're going to give a copy of our notes to Chrixy, and what she's going to do is 2 things. If you're looking for a replay, or to even share it with your team, and it becomes a topic for you guys to talk about. You don't have to do the whole hour together. Take the first 4 points, go around. Next week, do the next 4. Next week, do the next 4. Next month, okay? You can make this a nice little tool for you for a long term. This isn't about sitting down for an hour and just listening to us each and every time, okay? And then ask them to come up, each one of them, each time that you listen to one of those segments. What's yours? What's yours? What's yours? Let them start to participate. That might be one way to use it. But what Chrixy's going to do, she is going to edit this, get it up on both YouTube, and it will be in the Practical Side of Real Estate webinar replays. The only difference on the membership one is right below the membership, you'll see a little download button, reminder that does not download the video. What it does is it downloads the PDF of all the notes from the video that Chrixy put together for all of us. And so that is another tool. Then you could download that and then print that out and give that to your team as well. And you guys now have a little bit of a workshop that you guys can do either in one sitting or over months. Okay. Tons of love to everybody. And thank you, everybody, for bringing your 3 points. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Have a great weekend. And Chrixy, thanks for all your work on this video afterwards. So talk to you guys later.
Happy weekend,
Bye-bye.
everyone.